What up, Nine?
Trapaholics Mixtapes.
As the 9% and word would say, make a better you, a better us.
Fuck being rational. Give them what they ask for.
Who do you think you are? I'm the word. Boy, I'm the one who put in the work.
When I move, is it a quick rumble? I will never ever fall, never stumble. And I don't need to be humble. Break down walls like Jericho crumble.
What up, though? It's the word. You see the title, we about to get into it. But before we do that, do me a favor, hit that like. And if you're new, hit that subscribe, man. It's free to you, but it mean the world to me. All right. And with that being said, let me get into the deck. Chris, my brother, what up, though? Appreciate you, fam. Appreciate it. Hey, so today, we gonna be educated by the words. Yeah, educated, not educated. You know, a lot of people been educated. We gotta educate you, right? We gotta reform the way we think. And this is one of the things that is near and dear to my heart because when I was a little kid, I grew up loving the story about Uncle Tom, right? I went to Uncle Tom's cabin on a school trip and it blew my mind, right? As a kid, because prior to that, the most I knew about slavery was from the movie Roots, right? But to see some of the physical um, places where the Underground Railroad led to, because it was a school trip, but we stopped at a couple places. It was like a 3 day trip. We stopped at a couple places and the final destination was Uncle Tom's cabin up in Canada. You know, I grew up in Detroit, so growing up hearing the term Uncle Tom used as a derogatory in a derogatory way uh, to defame someone, to insult someone, it always bemused me, right? I'm like, hold on, bro, that ain't what it means. This is what it means. As a kid, you know, I was trying to correct people, but people get comfortable with society, the constructs of society. So um, as I got older, it didn't bother me as much as it did when I was a kid. I just summed it up to people's ignorance, right? Some people ignorant, and it's fine. Um, some people ignorant by choice, some people ignorant by default, right? So, but even in 2025, right? It's 2025 and we still doing it. And the information is at our hand. I had to read a book. I had to go on a school trip. I had to become aware by people making me aware, right? But with today's advancements in technology, you know, anybody can learn almost anything. You can learn different languages. You can learn history. You know, just take time. So this is willful ignorance. You know, people willfully being ignorant, still using things out of context, and it's important too because words have power, right? Words inspire, words motivate. So when you take a powerful concept, right? What it can do is empower people. It can embolden people. It can motivate people. It can move people. And we're gonna learn a little bit. well, I'm not gonna go too deep, but we're gonna learn what the story of Uncle Tom actually sparked, because this is not just a derogatory term. This is United States history. This is literally history. This is something that impacted um, our country, and I don't think people understand um, how influential the book of Uncle Tom's Cabin really was in American history. So the character Uncle Tom is a fictional character written by Harriet Beecher Stowe. Right, Harriet Beecher Stowe. She wrote a book called Uncle Tom's Cabin. All right, and then it was about a real person named Josiah Henson. Josiah Henson was a escaped slave, escaped up to Canada, and he was a big part of the Underground Railroad. In fact, he was, if you want to say the main part, that's the destination that people were going. They were trying to get to Uncle Tom's Cabin, and not only did he pick the runaway slaves in, but he also educated them. You know, he made them, um, he empowered them, right? So Josiah Henson was a historical figure, a real person who made a big impact. You know, his story is amazing, and it wasn't Uncle Tom's Cabin wasn't the first time someone written about the life of Josiah Henson. Um, prior to, to that, it was an autobiography written about Josiah Henson, and that's what actually inspired Harriet to write Uncle Tom's Cabin. And it is a fictional book. You know, it used a lot of historical facts about him, but also it has fiction in it, because one of the major differences is in the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, he passed away in real life, especially in that time he was still alive. So Abraham Lincoln supposedly told author, yeah, yeah, we go listen to a little bit of that. You know, we go. I got two short videos to review. Like I said, this ain't gonna be a long live, but it's gonna be a strong live. It's gonna be strong with information, so we better equipped um, to make better decisions and learn a little stuff, because all sides can take pride off of this story. This is American history, not just black people, but white people. You know what I'm saying? Because Harriet was a white woman. She was a white woman, and at this time, you know, white women they they didn't have no rights. They, you know, um, so what she did was huge, especially in the time she did it. Missing my appreciate you, sis. Appreciate. So, like I said, this is American history, but we go tap in and check out a little short video about who is Josiah Henson, right? And that part right there, you know, he went through the free land of Ohio and didn't, and it was a purpose. You know, I'm stopping this for a purpose, because this man was born into slavery. That's all you knew. Family got sold off. He almost died, and even when he got the opportunity, he didn't run away. And there's a reason why. And that was the point. Even when he had the opportunity to try to run away, he didn't. And that was prior to him even having them. He had nothing to lose at that point. But his thought the whole time was, you know what? I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna buy my freedom. Yeah, he did everything right. He was a perfect slave. He was reliable, loyal, because he did that with the intent, like, hey, if I just be right and do right, I get the opportunity to buy my freedom. That was his mindset. When he see that opportunity wasn't there for him, he like, hell, I'm getting out of here, you know. But his integrity, as a man, he found God during that process of being a slave. He became a Christian. And when he's describing history, he's looked upon as a martyr, especially for the Underground Railroad movement, because of what he did, not only escaping himself, but creating a space. Once he escaped, he could have been like, "Hey, I'm good. I got my family, we good." But no, he created space for other people who escaped, and not only created space, but is what he did after that, educating. And that was the biggest difference. You know, um, Uncle Tom's Cabin was based on Josiah Henson, but and like I said, it wasn't the first time someone written about his story. But what I find unique about what she did, and we're gonna watch a short video about Harriet also a little bit later. But what she did, and the impact of what she did is important because she took his story, and it was a powerful story by itself. But she looked at it and made it more dramatic to make it more impactful, and that had a big impact. It had a huge impact. This is why I say, like I said, this information is nothing new. We been story time with Uncle Bill. What it do? What the business is? Appreciate you. Appreciate no audio either. Or you were talking on the iron screen. Oh my goodness! Hold on. I didn't. Hold on. I can't believe I did that. I don't know why I wasn't sharing. My bad. I was on. I didn't even check. I was on the other screen. I can't believe I just did that. My biz, y'all. Hold on, bro. Yep, go ahead and edit this video. Yep, definitely go ahead to edit this video. That's okay. I apologize for that. I don't know how that didn't play. Okay, let me see who's in this now. Okay, we up. We up. Okay. I apologize for that. It's only a 3 minute video, so it's not long at all. Let's try this again.
As a child in Charles County, Maryland, Josiah Henson saw his family sold away from the plantation and out of his life. He almost died from neglect before he was traded onto the Riley plantation in Montgomery County, where his mother lived. Henson never saw his father or many of his siblings again. He sometimes worked in the stables on Riley's plantation. As a strong, intelligent, and resourceful worker, he fast became one of the owner's most loyal and trusted enslaved laborers. Riley once had Henson lead a group of slaves on a journey to Kentucky through the free state of Ohio without supervision. None of them, not even Henson himself, attempted to run away. While enslaved, Henson converted to
And that's what I was talking about, the part about his character. Like, his mindset from the beginning was, you know, I'm gonna do the right thing. In that way, you'll hear a little bit, but he wanted to buy his freedom. But his intent, even when he had the opportunity, he didn't have a family at that time. He had nothing to lose. You know, he had a mom, but he had nothing to lose. And even then, he was focused on being a loyal and just doing the right thing.
Christianity, married, and began saving money to buy his own freedom. But when Riley cheated Henson out of his savings and threatened to sell him, he escaped to freedom in Canada with his wife and children.
Did everything the right way. Tried to buy his freedom, but he was like, "Hell no! You one of the best slaves I got. You think I'm about to let you go?" And that's when he realized, like, no matter what I do, if I do the right thing, if I be a good slave, if I be none of that will award me what I truly want is my freedom. You know, I just want to be free. So he did what he had to do and he dipped off. But not only did he dip off, watch what he did. He established a whole
There,
community.
he helped to establish Dawn, Ontario, a settlement for fugitive slaves from the United States. He later dictated his life story to a local writer. The Life of Josiah Henson, formerly a slave, now an inhabitant of Canada, was published in 1849. 3 years later, Harriet Beecher Stowe patterned Uncle Tom's story on Josiah Henson's real life in her novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin, or Life Among the Lowly. In Stowe's novel, the slave master kills Tom for refusing to reveal the location of two female slaves. Stowe's fictional account of slavery was a blockbuster hit. In reality, Reverend Josiah Henson lived a long and full life, becoming a successful businessman, community leader, international speaker, and a conductor.
And that's what I was saying. Like, you know, they wrote the original story, the original biography, right? And it inspired Harriet, but she looked at it, and at the time she was an abolitionist, right? If you don't know what an abolitionist is, it's one of the people who was fighting against slavery. You know, they were fighting to free the slaves. And that's what she was. She was an abolitionist. And this story inspired her so much that she looked at it like, look, I got to make it a little bit more dramatic, you know. And that's what she did. But when she did that, it had an impact that changed the fucking world at that time. This was a bad woman, man. That's why I say this is not just, oh, my bad. This is not just Black history. This is American history. I apologize. I'm messing all up on this. Let me put us back where we was
Patterned Uncle Tom's story.
Yeah. So this is not just Black history. This is American history. This white woman is fighting for the rights or the freedom of Black people. And at that time, let's be real, she ain't had no real power. Like her physical words, or she was an abolitionist. She was already fighting for it. But she said, I'm gonna fight it a different way. She fought it the best way she could. And guess what? it changed the fucking world as we knew it. It changed the world as we knew it. And when we listen a little bit about her, you will see exactly what I'm talking about.
On Josiah Henson's real life in her novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin, or Life Among the Lowly. In Stowe's novel, was a blockbuster hit. In reality, Reverend Josiah Henson lived a long and full life, becoming a successful businessman, community leader, international speaker, and a conductor on the Underground Railroad. Impressed by his story, Stowe wrote the preface for the next edition of Henson's book. Henson became known as the original Uncle Tom. His fame spread, and the community of former slaves in Canada grew. On a trip to England to raise funds to help the Dawn settlement, Reverend Josiah Henson was presented to Queen Victoria. Yet, despite Henson's honorable life, Uncle Tom has taken on derogatory meanings through the years. But nothing could be further from the truth. In Harriet Beecher Stowe's fictional novel, Tom was a martyr. The real Uncle Tom, Reverend Josiah Henson, was a Maryland hero.
It's even important. Like I said earlier, this is powerful. It's inspirational. It's motivational. In fact, we're gonna listen to Harriet's. We're gonna hear how motivational story of Uncle Tom was. And in 2025, we use this as a derogatory term, and it's the reason why. All this is by systematically done. It's done on purpose, right? A lot of terms that we have now are used in derogatory ways, and it's to take the power away. It's to take the inspiration away from it. Words have power, man. When someone says "I love you," it makes you feel good. That's energy. Words have energy within, but it's the energy comes with understanding, with knowing. This is why they say wisdom. You know, without the knowing or the wisdom or the true power of the word, it has no benefit to you. So us or people in general calling people Uncle Tom, we took the positive and made it negative, right? And it's because of our ignorance. You know, we have to participate in these things, right? We participate in it because we choose to look at it as ignorant. We use it as ignorant. You know, a knife is a knife. If you use it to cut up your food, it can be useful. But if you use it to cut a person, it could be harmful, right? And that's how we use these words, just like that. You know, it's all about our intent. All right, let me load this next video up real quick. But we go look at Harriet now, and then and then you know we'll talk about Harriet. Okay, this video is a little longer, but um, and I'm gonna put the videos in the comments. I mean, the description. I'm gonna put the video in the description. So if y'all want to go back and review it, because I don't think I'm gonna watch this whole one. So if you actually want to go back and see the whole thing, it'll definitely be in there. Shout out to the channel. I forgot the name of the channel. Yeah, I'm being a little discombobulated right now. But yeah, let's listen a little bit about her.
Lincoln at the White House in 1862, the president reportedly greeted her with, "So you're the little lady who wrote the book that started this great war." As Stowe shook the president's hand, her masterpiece, Uncle Tom's Cabin, which had been published 10 years earlier, had already sold 2 million copies in the US alone, making it the best-selling novel in American history by proportion of population. The book brought Queen Victoria to tears, sold out at Southern bookstores despite being outlawed, and fortified President Lincoln in the days leading up to his decision to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. But above all, Uncle Tom's Cabin deliberately drove a dagger into the most vulnerable point in America's conscience: slavery's assault on Black families, especially children. And who was this mastermind behind the radical story? A mom of 6 who wrote by candlelight once her babies were in bed. Meet Harriet. Here's her story. Welcome to Strong Stories. This channel is all about telling the stories of influential and brave women who shaped.
Well, shout out to Strong Stories because, like I knew the historical aspect of this, but this young lady, man, I just like her presentation. Let her
History.
articulate.
If you like good stories, hit the subscribe button and the bell too, so you don't miss an episode. Harriet Beecher was born in 1811 into a remarkable Connecticut family. Her father, the Reverend Lyman Beecher, let it be known that his children, all 11 of them, were expected to make their mark on the world. All 7 of Harriet's brothers became ministers. Her oldest sister pioneered for women's education, and her youngest sister founded the National Women's Suffrage Association. Harriet, the middle child, didn't know what impact she could make, but from an early age, she loved to write, and her pen began winning prizes. Most unusually for females in the early 1800s, Harriet received a formal education, attending one of the only academies in the country which encouraged girls to learn the same material as boys instead of limiting them to ornamental arts. Armed with as much knowledge in mathematics, history, and language.
Favor opportunities. That's it, to me. This is why a lot of them conversations about women can't do this, women. That's not, man. And people who take opportunities is not defined by sex. It's defined by the will within. Man, woman, or child. If a person accepts the opportunity, then that's what they run with. That's not a male trait. That's not. So people are capable of things that they believe they're capable of. So if you limit yourself that I can only do this or I can only be this, that's what happens, man. And there's people out here who don't limit themselves too. Especially think about it at this time. Formal education for women was little different arts. Wasn't mathematics, wasn't science. That wasn't, but she had the opportunity if she ran with it to excel at it. You know, she didn't limit herself to just her gender or what people told her women can do. She didn't do that, even at this time.
As any man could hope to acquire, Harriet became a teacher at Hartford Female Seminary, founded by her older sister. Lively family discussions around a presumably enormous dinner table sharpened her debate prowess and inspired her writing, for which the young woman was gaining a growing reputation. When Harriet was 21, her family uprooted their Yankee digs and resettled in the bustling frontier river port of Cincinnati, where her father would serve as a seminary president. When an errand brought Harriet across the Ohio River to the Kentucky side, she suddenly found herself face to face with a slave auction. Distressed by the cruel spectacle, Harriet would revive the scenes in stirring prose 20 years later in Uncle Tom's Cabin. In 1832, Harriet joined a literary club where she met and fell in love with Calvin Stowe, a Bible professor at her father's seminary, who she described as rich in Greek and Hebrew, Latin and Arabic, and alas, rich in nothing else. The coming years brought marriage and 7 children, including twin daughters. Meanwhile, Cincinnati was becoming ground zero for the great issue of the day: fugitive slaves. Directly across the Ohio River from the slaves south, the boomtown drew a steady stream of escaped slaves fleeing north to freedom, as well as the bounty hunters hot on their trails. Harriet, now Harriet Beecher Stowe, befriended a number of fugitives, welcoming them into her home as part of the Underground Railroad and hearing their stories and seeing their scars with her own eyes. Their stories captured her. A devoutly Christian.
And I'm sorry, I have to point this out too. But back in this time, right? And it's sad because we so far removed from this. And but back in this time, a Christian was a Christian. You know what I'm saying? No matter what color, race you were, and they led with empathy, man. Christians at this time, they led with empathy. Right? Most of the Underground Railroad were Christians. Yeah, they led with empathy. And nowadays, it's sad that even I don't know, like people lived it morally, and now that I just don't see it no more. I don't see it, and it's sad because um, this is the power of faith, right? When you share the faith with someone, no matter what color they are, they status, their upbringing, nah, we all are in love with the Creator. We all in love with Christ, and because I love Christ and you love Christ, I love you. And when we come together, stuff like this happen, man. Imagine if the Underground Railroad never started. Imagine if you didn't have the assistance.
Christian African American gentleman weeping in memory of children sold downriver, but forgiving the slave traders all the same. A desperate fugitive crossing the Ohio River in winter by leaping between ice floes. A child born to parents whose owner forced them to produce children as a commodity, like farm animals. All real people Stowe became familiar with. There's
This is aspects about slavery that people didn't know. They had breeding farms. That's they had slaves just to breed up like cattle. They like if you get cows, right? You get cows to breed, and that way you get 2-3 generations of them if it's the milk or meat. That's how you keep your stock alive. Instead of because things die. So if it died, then you have to replace it. Instead of doing that, you breed it yourself. And not only do you create a surplus for you, but now you create a new, um, now you create a whole new market. Now you're creating, you're breeding slaves. So not only do you not have to buy them, but now you can sell them. And that's what, like, when we're talking about, like, when people think of slavery, they just put them in huts and had them work in the field. Nah, man, these people were doing these human beings feeding other human beings like this. And it's sad to say, I mean, we kind of still do it today. We do it today. We don't truly value life. We might value our own, but you value your neighbor. Yeah, unfortunately, that's how we do. Well, that young man, I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk, but that dude gone. 'Cause ain't nobody value his life. The dude who took his life didn't value.
stories were unforgettable to her, and she would soon make them unforgettable to the world. In 1849, Stowe lost her 1-year-old son, Samuel, to cholera. The blow broke her heart, but as she testified later, it allowed her to better understand the pain of slave parents who are separated from their children forever due to their master's greed. The following year,
Empathy, empathy.
Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Law, forcing Northerners to return escaped slaves to the South. Outraged, Stowe's sister told her, "Hattie, if I could use a pen as you can, I would write something that will make this whole nation feel what an accursed thing slavery is." Stowe told her, "If I live, I will." As busy by day as only a mother of 6 can be, Stowe began to write by candlelight once the children were tucked into bed. Night after night, she put to words scenes and characters that would soon become famous around the globe. Besides her own experiences in Cincinnati, Stowe drew freely from descriptions of slave owners themselves. Advertisements in Southern newspapers seeking the return of escaped slaves had been collected and published verbatim by abolitionist Theodore Weld in a book entitled American Slavery as It Is. Listings such as, "He will probably aim for Savannah as he said he had children in that vicinity," and "Negroes for sale, a Negro woman 24 years of age and 2 children, one 8 and the other 3 years," to be sold separately or together as desired. This condemned slavery in the slaveholder's own words. Stowe pored over the advertisements while her masterpiece took shape, reportedly even sleeping with the book under her pillow. Uncle Tom's Cabin was published in serial form over 9 months in an abolitionist periodical in 1851, and then in book form in the summer of 1852. Recognition came at once, as abolitionists nationwide embraced the novel as their standard. And 8 power printers working continuously struggled to meet the demand of an unprecedented bestseller. Across the Atlantic, millions of copies sold in Britain and Europe, profiting Stowe nothing, as no international copyright treaties had yet been signed. Nevertheless, she traveled to England in 1853, where she was met by adoring crowds. Stowe's story provoked extreme emotional responses, both positive and negative. Outraged Southerners accused Stowe of fabricating lies about slavery. One Southern editor told the book's reviewer, "I would have the review as hot as hellfire, blasting and searing the reputation of the vile wretch in petticoats that could write such a volume." Stowe responded to these accusations by citing the slave owner's own words back to them from the Southern ads she had diligently studied. She published this in a follow-up work, A Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin. It was this book of evidence that President Lincoln
Hey, it was petty. Damn motherfucker. I like Harriet. She petty as hell. Shout out to Harriet, man.
checked out of the Library of Congress as he geared up for the political fight over the emancipation of slaves in 1862. Historian James McPherson, author of The Battle Cry Freedom, called Uncle Tom's Cabin the most influential indictment of slavery of all time. The New York Times said its influence was second only to the Bible. And indeed, Tom sold more copies in the 19th century than any book except the Bible. It is often called the first bestseller. It was a phenomenon. In a regrettable turn of events, later stage renditions based loosely on the story, known as Tom shows, portrayed.
This is where we come to. Like, because you see the impact of it's a story about a black man written about a white woman. And I'm just being honest. I'm not talking about today, talking about in the time, in the era this happened. You got a story about a black man written by a white woman, moving the hearts of people in the nation. White men did not like that shit. Let's be honest. The black man was under his foot, the white woman was under his thumb. But now you got these two basically collaborating and changing the fucking world. You think white men like that? No, they wanted to take the power away from that Uncle Tom. And what did they do? Created these fucking minstrel shows. They made it derogatory. And what they did still stands today because black people call other black people Uncle Tom in a derogatory way. And that just shows their level of fucking ignorance. And it irritates me, you know. And I'm talking to black people right now. Listen, if you want better, you got to do better. And doing better is taking control of self. Stop following fucking social construct, especially when you don't know where the shit comes from. Uncle Tom, that's been disrespectful to our ancestors. That's been disrespectful to our own history. When you use it in a derogatory way, I'm not gonna compare it to using God's name in vain. I will never do that. But you're using Uncle Tom's name in a derogatory way. Put some respect on him. What that man did, what he accomplished, what Harriet accomplished, powerful. You can use that. You can ride that. You can be proud of that. Not only black people, but white women, white men, because you come from a white woman, white man. You come out of the womb of a white woman, so you can be proud of what Harriet did, right? Let's stop being ignorant, right? Ignorant is blissful until you got to pay for it.
Tom as a groveling older man with poor English and a submissive attitude. However, these repugnant performances created a character based on racist stereotypes who bears little resemblance to the noble hero of Stowe's bestseller. If you've read Uncle Tom's Cabin, let me know in the comments, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the story as well. On December 31st, 1862, a large crowd of abolitionists met at the Music Hall in Boston to ring in the new year. Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation was to take effect at midnight. On the stage, Harriet Tubman, Wendell Phillips, and Frederick Douglass addressed the cheering crowd. William Lloyd Garrison wept for joy. The crowd began chanting the name of Harriet Beecher Stowe, who stood up in the balcony, her eyes aglow with tears. She had done as much as anyone to make that moment happen. Stowe went on to write 29 more books, and after the war, she took up the cause of women's suffrage. Though she would not live to see women gain the right to vote, her efforts and prestige made an important contribution to the movement's eventual success. Harriet Beecher Stowe died on July 1st, 1896 in Hartford, Connecticut at age 85. Thank you for watching. Please give the video a like and say
Oh, the motherfucking Harriet, bro. Shout out to Harriet. Yeah, man. Dee Dee, what up, though, sis? What up, though? Yeah, man. I just wanted to share that with y'all. But yeah, like I said, this is not just Black history. This is American history. What that lady was able to accomplish, like she moved the whole nation. You know, she changed the hearts, which changed the minds of people. You know, and like I said, in today's day and age, it's still sad we in 2025. We got people trying to discredit the impact women have had and still can contribute. You know, without imagine if she just said, "Hey, I'm a woman," you know, I don't need. We wouldn't be where we are today. So, the impact of women, we can see it through the trails of history. Now. So, is everyone capable of everything? No, but don't limit people to what you limited to, right? So that's what I say. Like when I hear people talk about women can't do this, women can't do that, first thing I think about, well, that's your experience you projecting. Because the women in my family, they badass. They can do whatever the hell they want. They done did it and doing it, you know. And they still reside in their femininity, right? They still women. You know, they just badass ones. You know, so like when I hear people talk like that, I be thinking like, well, that you projected your own personal experience. Maybe the women ain't around you ain't capable of these things, but you shouldn't limit other women to what the women around you are limited to. You know, that's just your own personal experience because history tells us that some bad women in history. You don't want to give them credit, then that's your ignorance, right? That's just how I feel. That's your ignorance. But yeah, man. I just wanted to present that real quick. And I apologize. In my mind, when I was ready to do it, I had a better presentation. There was some other things I wanted to review. But I wasn't feeling too well. You know, I had a little rough day. But I promised I was going to do this, so I had to do it. I messed up a couple times, but it ain't how you start, it's how you finish. So, uh, yeah, man, that's all I wanted to bring to the people today. Like I said, it ain't going to be long, but it's going to be strong. So, John Henson, man. You know, my people, my fellow melanated people, uh, understand the origins of things. Regain your power, you know, gain your power. Stop calling people Uncle Tom in a derogatory way. And my white brothers and sisters, hey, don't be afraid to correct motherfuckers. When you hear a black person calling black person Uncle Tom in a derogatory way, give them some education. You know, if you don't want to do it, just send them the link to this video. Educate them, right? Education ain't working, so we'll have to switch it up. We're gonna start educating people. Because the education people got that ain't working. But you know, I don't want to hold nobody long tonight. I appreciate y'all coming through, rocking out with me. I'll probably be back tomorrow. But for now, that's all I got, man. Y'all know what I always say: care about how you feel. These are conversations that create nations. And if I say anything that resonated with you, do me a favor, hit that share button, tell somebody, help me spread the word. But until next time, we out. That's all I got, Pete.
And do it for the 9.
What up, Nine?
Acknowledge me!